This is why living as royalty would absolutely suck. Even when you're having a beautiful, brilliant party, you have to worry that everyone around you is either trying to poison you, stab you in the back, or use you. This is the setup for the Apothecary Diaries' newest arc, which has begun with this latest episode. And again, I am loving this show. Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem, not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And I am back again with my review and analysis for the Apothecary Diaries. This latest episode was just really enjoyable in a nice plotting way, which is not normally something that you would expect to hear. But it's great to see the show, to see the story take its time to set up what is bound to be a really insane moment. So, quick spoilers, quick review of the episode right here. This opens up with a servant coming to talk to the doctor and to Mamau about a curse which has been placed upon him. His hands are of this crazy rash that happened after he helped to dispose of a bunch of waste at the trash fire that the palace has, and whoosh, this nasty, horrible flame suddenly went beautiful, colorful, and huge, and then this rash appeared on his hands. What has happened? Well, Mamau deduces that it's definitely not magic, it's something chemical. Someone has been sending colored messages on writing boards and meant for them to be disposed, but something about these chemicals is leaving a rash on whoever is using them. This is important because there's obviously a bunch of secret messages being passed around, and someone is coordinating a potential assassination at the Emperor's next big festival. Meanwhile, it is clear that Mamau has settled into palace life. She's getting pretty comfortable, and she's, of course, being given all of the little odd jobs, especially in preparation for the festival, as she comes up with treats to help people keep warm, as well as coming up with pouches that people can slip stuff on into to keep themselves warm. This is a really great forward thinking. Mamau, you are wasted in the rear palace. You should be a lady of industry leading Korea in a new industrial age of comfort and enlightenment. Oh man, it's really depressing actually when you stop to think about what could have happened in history if only people weren't idiots who oppressed others. In any case, moving on, as Mamau is helping to prepare for this new festival, we see how she has really been adopted into this society, into this system. She's no longer seen as the weird, ugly, freckled girl, which is important for later on in this episode, but that people expect her to be there. And she's been given more responsibility. She has really been brought in as one of the ladies in waiting. She's no longer just the poison taste tester who happens to know a bunch of crazy kooky things because she worked as an apothecarist in the red light district. Meanwhile, it seems like Jinji is up to his usual little tricks, which are, we don't actually know. This guy is such an interesting self-serving agent of the Emperor. It's very clear that he's really interested in Mamau at this point, and by the end of the episode, he has basically all but claimed her, as I'll get to in just a little moment. But it seems like he's also getting ready for something big. He understands that this festival is going to provide enemies of the Emperor, or enemies of his favorite concubines, with an opportunity to do something drastic. He's not just having fun sparring with someone in the early morning. No, this guy's getting ready for action, as well as testing who different individuals are, of course, maintaining various alliances that he has with the eunuchs in the rear palace. Even though he is an agent chosen by the Emperor, he needs to know his people. He needs to know who is loyal. He needs to understand all of these different things that are happening between the ladies and the eunuchs. And this is why I really do enjoy this softer side of politics within fiction. This is something that I feel like writers don't fully understand a lot of the time, especially novice authors, when it comes to writing politics. And this is something that a lot of people don't get. This was one of the mistakes that was made by George Lucas when it came to writing the Star Wars prequel movies. And it was, well, when it comes to politics, of course, it is the writing up of special documents. It is arguing various forms of legislation. It is the grinding process of debate, and then finally we sign at the bottom. Yes, that is indeed politics. Politicking also is how you demonstrate power, how you build alliances, and that does not require you to underscore some sort of document. Instead, it is about posturing, it is about popularity, it is about demonstrating power, and you do that in all different kinds of ways, normally actually through social ways. One of the ways in which we demonstrate political power is how we are able to present and handle ourselves in social situations. And that is why this episode is so essential, because it is setting the stage for what is effectively the royal court, but in a social setting. The emperor isn't going to be issuing decrees and edicts from his mouth and his scribes are going to be writing it down during the festival. Oh no. But instead we are going to see the power of the emperor and his various concubines demonstrated through their art of dancing, through music, through food. Who gets to speak to whom? Who gets to sit where? Who has as many ladies in waiting? Who can take those ladies in waiting? Power is about to be demonstrated at this festival, and what we see right here is a very subtle build up to that moment. And I like that it isn't being spelled out to you in detail. Instead, it's something for you to observe and to enjoy. And I really did enjoy going back again and again, having a look at just little tiny details. Ooh, that's what I think really is a strength of visual storytelling, and this is something that the Apothecary Diaries absolutely fully capitalizes on. Now, the last thing for me to mention is this very significant moment here at the end, where Mamau is supposed to be dressed up as a proper lady-in-waiting with a beautiful dress padded out at the hips and chest, and she's going to be given special makeup to cover up those hideous freckles. But as the ladies-in-waiting begin cleaning her and prepping her for dressing, it is revealed she actually doesn't have freckles. She's been painting them on, and when Gingy comes to check in on her, he at first doesn't recognize her because of how she's been all dolled up, and he's like, well, where are your freckles? You covered them? And she lets it slip, no, they've been removed. I've never had freckles. And here Mamau reveals, honestly, a bit of a crushing reality that if you're going to live in the red light district, you are going to be taken advantage of. And so she used her own physical appearance as a way of deterring would-be attackers. And part of that was to put on freckles, because people in this particular era and in this particular area did not like freckles. And actually, if we look back through history, unfortunately for a lot of people, freckles was not something that was considered appealing or attractive. It's actually a relatively recent thing where freckles are considered normal, and where it is okay to have freckles, and where people even say freckles are cute, freckles are beautiful. This is a very recent trend, a relatively recent trend in the grand scheme of human history, unfortunately. And Mamau has actually used this perception of beauty to her advantage to defend herself against men. And that's a really harrowing moment. And I love that it shows for someone like Gingy, who is considered to be one of the most beautiful men in the rear palace, who is lusted after by all the other ladies in waiting. This is a world, this is a situation which most people probably would not fully appreciate. A girl in the red light district having to defend herself by essentially uglifying herself. And Gingy recognizes kind of what's going on here. He's seen what toll Mamau's life has had on her, and we know at this point that he wants her. And so him slipping in his silver hairpin right here, this communicates a bunch of different things. Like I said earlier, power. Who actually has power in the situation. Shinji just exerted himself over the Emperor's favorite concubine by basically claiming one of her handmaidens by putting in his own hairpin. That is power, and that is brazen. He's doing this before the Emperor even lets people have their fun at the festival. That is a bold, gutsy move, and that says a whole lot about what's going on right here. But on a more personal level, what this actually says is that Shinji realizes this girl's been through a lot, and other people, other guys are going to be going after her. She is beautiful, so I'm going to have to claim her for myself, and I'm hoping that she realizes that I'm sending the message of, hey, I like you, and hey, I think that you're cute, I think you're beautiful, and Mamao, being the girl that she is so fantastically dense that she's not picking up on it. And part of that is that she just views herself as the servant, as the apothecariist, not as this socialite, as this lady in waiting, as a power player in the politics and power dynamics of the rear palace. And I think that's one of the things that also gives Mamao her appeal, not just to Shinji, but also to the audience, that she is an earnest girl, that she is being true to herself and not trying to play the same silly games, the same dangerous games that everyone is. And that is what's setting up the big clash to happen in the next episode, because you have this honest, earnest girl who has a very important position in the rear palace, who's about to be thrown into the middle of a social field of landmines. That is what this festival is going to be, and it's also going to be an opportunity for whoever's working behind the scenes with these colors, with these messages, to strike, and we don't know who they're going to strike at just yet. This right here is all excellent setup. Yes, this particular episode does give us some very important information about Mamao, and some good information about Shinji as well. But ultimately, this slow plotting episode gives us time to just kind of revel in the situation that these characters find themselves in. What we are building up to, with a potential conspiracy, with this festival oncoming, with the expectations that are there, what the power plays are going to be, and also, again, to appreciate that a lot of the women in the rear palace are genuinely good people. And I've brought this up before in my reviews, is that they're basically all prisoners. They're there to be used by the Emperor, and yet in their own way, they claim their individuality. They reclaim their personhood. They reclaim their sense of worth by playing their own games, doing their own things within this world that has been constructed for them. And that shows just great autonomy and great power, great individuality on the parts of all of these different characters, who, again, if you don't remember all of their names, that's totally fine, but you at least are able to always recognize that they are their own person through the way that they are animated, through the way they are portrayed, through the way they are written in the script. And that is absolutely strong. That's something that is honestly very hard for novice authors to get across in their first time around, is how do you infuse individuality into all of your side characters without taking too much time with them. You do this by just giving them an actual personality and showing how that personality reacts in different situations. You don't want to spend copious amounts of time with these individuals if they're just side characters, but you can still give them a life and a name and breathe individuality into them by giving them legit personalities and letting us see those personalities on screen as you still focus on the main character and on the plot. And again, it is totally fine to slow things down, to set up your world, to set up the next challenge or the next big arc within your story. In fact, you probably should do that. Just going at a constant, steady pace that may work for certain stories like what Dan Brown writes, but those are thrillers. Thrillers usually require a certain kind of upped pace. Right here with the Apothecary Diaries, this is a character study. This is a drama. And so you want to adjust the pacing of your story according to the genre in which you are writing. And my last bit of advice based on this episode would actually be, let's take a leaf out of how Mamau was handled within this episode. Yes, she is someone from basically a tragic background. Living up in the red light district is not a great place for anyone to grow up in. And so while we can definitely see it as the tragedy that it is great to see Mamau not treat it as such. But neither does she downplay it as, oh, it wasn't nothing. No, she accepts the reality of how bad something was, but doesn't allow it to cripple her. This shows great strength of character, and honestly, this is something that most people from horrible backgrounds actually do. We're so used to the angsty portrayal of characters that, oh, I had this horrible thing happen in my life, whether it was actually horrible or not, is usually irrelevant because people just write angstiness and tragedy for, look at how my character has suffered trauma. This is something I see as really popular amongst a lot of novice authors, and it's something that's also become popularized within modern fiction, is that you must have a character who is traumatized, and that trauma must be debilitating on some various level. That actually gets really annoying and really old really fast. It makes the characters come across as weaker than what someone actually intends. Instead, showing a character like Mamau accept the fact that they do come from a tragic background, but also figuring out ways to live with it, to deal with it, to overcome it, shows the strength of that individual. It does not eliminate the trauma that they've gone through, but it shows great strength of character on their part. They figured out a way to move on, that they figured out a way to adapt, and that is actually what makes Mamau such a relatable character and a strong female character at that. So those are my thoughts right there on the most latest episode of the Apothecary Diaries for episode 5, this build up to this incredible festival and potential conspiracy that we're about to see unfold. If you've been keeping up with the anime, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't been watching this series, but you've been following these videos, then please get on it. This show is incredible. But if you're looking for more writing advice, more insights, more reviews, analyses, please check out our other videos here on our channel. And please help us reach the holy trifecta of having 5,000 subscribers to meet with our 5 years of activity here on YouTube and 500 videos since we've really gotten underway. This is an incredible mile marker for us, and we would love you to be a part of it, but we can only get there with your support. So again, we would love it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to Camille's Harem. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing, and I hope that you do enjoy the Apothecary Diaries. Watch out what you put into your food, watch out what other people put into your food, and beware of potential fireworks chemicals. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.